That's perfect. I can see it
Great.
as presented view.
Great.
Okay, so a little bit about myself. For one, terrible picture. I look very serious in that picture, but it's last minute I could get one. On other terms, so my quick background, I'm practitioner in occupational health and safety and ergonomics. I've had various roles over the years, between banking compliance, and I'm now moving into the HSE, where I'm hoping to make many changes with human factors, but starting off as health and safety initially. And I've worked in transport, pre-hospital, medical services, and social care. So that's a quick overview. 3 months ago, I was given the privilege by the Irish Human Factors Society to go and represent us at the IEA in Beijing. So it was a nice long flight. Um, next, next slide, please, Marie. So, so at this conference, there was many aspects. But first of all, I would like to say is that Ireland has always taken the lead at these conferences going back to 1995 when we first became a federal member, including Marie was telling me last year that we did the checkpoint, the IEA checkpoint of different ergonomics tools. This year was slightly different. We had a little bit more impact with the ISO standards, especially risk management, and the International Labour Organization and the WHO. And this will in time develop directly impact our healthcare systems, our disability services, commercial activities, transport, public sector. So there's a lot of change coming in the next 3 to 4 years. Next slide, please. Oh, I just said there, it's moving beyond just what we can do to more of a systems approach. So why was it important? The IE Council. So initially, our first aspect of the council meeting was to welcome Bolivia as a federation member. So it's great to see the council actually expand, invite more countries. That means on a global stage, when we attend these conferences, we will hear more backgrounds, more different systems and services across the world. Um, we the IEA now, which the IHFES is a part of, is a formally recognized organization, the International Labour Organization, as a technical provider. So that means we can actually change regulations for the first time ever. We've talked a lot as a committee about influencing government, especially when it comes to training. This will now become law in the next 3 or 4 years, which is fantastic. And then, as I said there, the last one, once something becomes part of the ILL, it stays, and it's not just a tick the box exercise anymore. Next, please, Marie. So I got a bit fascinated with apes. I don't know why when I was doing this. Um, so why this is happening now? There's a lot of change in society as when I've worked for 30 odd years, and when I started, there was hardly a computer anywhere. It was all paperwork, all systems approach was very basic. So what is changing faster systems and how we manage safety. Today's work is mediated by software, shaped by automation, dependent on complex workflow, and spread across organizational boundaries. I know this from health and safety. Every day, I'm looking to see how actually something's worked, who's responsible, and it's usually across multiple departments to actually get something finalized. So this is part of why we fail, whether it be healthcare, aviation, infrastructure, or IT services. They are caused by someone being careless. So I had a recent bed issue, but nobody actually knew who looked after the beds in work. So that was an aspect where we formed a new committee, which is a new system in place. Next, please. Right. So to continue on, so system failures and incidents are caused by poor system design, confusing the interfaces, automation, do an unexpected thing, and organizations that are too complex to cooperate. So this is what we discussed at the conference. These are the findings that we've found and why we've actually gone with this ILO partnership. However, businesses will keep blaming people, not acknowledging the real problems. So that was one of our key findings when we did a bit of focus group. We're putting people into systems that were never designed to be safely operable, instead of asking human factors to fill the gap that has actually created the incident. And again, I do this a lot in work, come across the issues. I personally spoke at the conference about in the healthcare industry and social care industry, there's a lot of manual handling activities. And when somebody goes at work due to a manual handling incident, return to work process doesn't always follow what is required to a high demanding industry. It takes this simple approach that factors not the muscular, but what the activity is, if that makes sense, and what would be the normal medical review, instead of actually looking at the MSD, what's underlying the cause, and how we can prevent that in the future. Next slide, please, Marie. So how human factors is viewed, I'm sure everybody who's works in this area has come across this. It's always seen as chairs, screen, postures. If I say I'm going to do an ergonomic system, somebody thinks you're doing a DSC straight away, or a manual handling activity. But this is hopefully with the ILO, this will change. Again, next slide, please, Marie. So it will become, human factors will come and ergonomics will come, how work is organized, how decisions are made, how technology is introduced, how responsibility and authority flow, and whether the systems on a whole is governable. So this is what came out of the conference when we had our workshops. We discussed this. These are the main aspects that all the federal societies came to a decision on. In other words, we are moving from a lifting the task to the person to govern, sorry, fitting the task to the person to govern whole work systems so they are safe by design, becoming a core organization capability, which ultimately will actually lead to more profit and less lost working hours and productivity. Next slide, please. So a part of this process on the ILO is the ISO aspect. So there's technical committees called 159. And through this, we as a society, we can go and join groups and influence how work systems are designed. So this will be all part of the ILO. It's already in place, but it'll be more formal. How work systems designs, digital systems, human systems interaction, usability, accessibility, organizational design. And myself and Marie, no, Jones, sorry, are actually joining a committee on sustainability on through this technical committee in the near future. Next slide, please. So through this, as I said, already said, these standards shape procurement rules, regulatory expectations, inspection frameworks. For the likes of the HSA, when they go out and inspect, they'd be looking at more systems approach. And ultimately, which none of us want to see, is court judgments about what reasonable design looks like. So if we, as employers, fail to put an appropriate system, the judgments will now be more based on law and fact, what actually is reasonable. Next slide, please, Marie. So at this, we had a lot of big change. This is the timetable of how things have happened. So this year, the technical report will be published. Global guidelines will be published in 2007, and then from 2028 to 2030, the processes will go through as everything becomes agreed through political bodies, the ILO and the IEA, and then once adopted, to become part of international labour law and hopefully EU regulation. Next slide, please, Marie. By the way, um, Give me a second. Let me get my glasses on proper. I wrote these things, but it's quite small. I might actually go to my own slide for a second.
Hmm. No problem, Tony. Yeah.
Half blind.
The DSE issue.
Yes, I'm on the laptop. Um, okay, so the big changes are critically, it doesn't just cover physical risk. So we're going beyond the physical. We're looking at systems at the micro level, cognitive load, psychological risk. This is the template taken away from the ILO report. Um, Psychological risk, environmental. So we're actually going to be looking at what the person actually does, between the workload being done, what cognitive distractions. So I would say the social care environment, not alone are you supporting somebody to get dressed, but you are actually also supporting a person who will have a different way they want to be supported, and they may be non-verbal. So there's a lot of complexities in that alone. And then is the environment suitable? Do we have a mobile heist, a ceiling heist? What type of bed? There's all these aspects. You have enough room. Is a home environment? Is a community? Is a hospital setting? So all that will form the basis of the micro level. And then at the macro level, it'll be, is the organizational design correct? Do we have the right systems? Do reports come back? I know for myself from risk management framework, I don't always get root causes from minor injuries and near misses because a lot of focus on moderate. And I've had to take a different approach and actually get feedback on what actually is happening on a day-to-day basis, not just what's seen as moderate and above. Um, so what this means from a regulatory point of view, it means that it's not just that did you train people, did you write a policy, it'll actually go beyond that. Do you, when an inspector comes to call or somebody else, was this work system designed to safely operable, op, operable in the first place? That was very different legal and regulatory question. Next slide, please, Marie. So I couldn't resist putting Kirk here. So at policy level, we're moving to what was I've come across a few years ago was Industry 5.0. So previously we were more interested in optimization, efficiency, but Industry 5.0 is human-centered design. So we actually put the person back at the heart of the process. Is it resilient? Is it sustainable? Do we have to keep on changing? There was a thing years ago with, as an ex-paramedic, there was a thing called fire drams is put in, and the compartment was supposed to be removable and put on a new chassis, and was supposed to have a 15-year lifespan. Never happened because the vehicle has to constantly adapt to new needs. So one design that was built 15 years ago was never going to do with technology change, such as tail lifts. Um, Keeping humans in command of the systems. So you always have your captain, hence the picture. That human factors are written into policy and everyday language. One of the things I've been overseeing myself last year is plain English in every policy with multiple demographics. People need to understand from all backgrounds. So keeping it simple and everyday is crucial. And the introduction of AI has this made this even more urgent as things change. Next slide, please. Right. So Industry 5.0 continued. The biggest risk to this Industry 5.0 is AI, but it's not what we see in the movies. No Terminator, no cyborgs, nothing like that. It is the automation surprises. One of the things that was discussed constantly at the conference was self-drive cars or semi-self-drive cars, where you are supposed to put your hand back on the wheel when something happens and take control of the vehicle. But the problem with that is if we're so relaxed and the car is driving itself, when something happens, for you to actually put your hand back on the wheel takes a cognitive element. And one of the pushbacks from the car industry who spoke at the conference was designing a simple process when you put your hand on the wheel that the car goes back to manual, not an optional alternative where it's semi-automatic, fully automatic, just that it went back to manual. So that's one of the processes that when things go wrong, the AI is removed, go back to manual, and then start choosing what level of control you want once the emergency is over. So that's loss again. That brings us to the next point: loss of situational awareness. People being asked to supervise systems. Again, that moment of being aware that something's happened and decision making drifting out of human control. So that all back to the car explanation. So human factors, ergonomics, jobs to keep it complex systems governable. Next slide, please, Marie. So to do this, there's a proposal to change the hierarchy of control as part of the ILO. So it will stay as the same, but for psychological risk, system risk, and AI mediated work. So what they're talking about there, sorry, let's make it bigger, is that we're looking at the highest and the most. So to actually reduce the risk by altering the workplace layout, altering the workplace environment, altering the systems of work, changing the objects used in the task, and using mechanical aids instead of what it currently says administrative controls, PPE, engineering controls, elimination, substitution, because it's not always possible to eliminate a risk or introduce control. So this is a more practical approach that reflects the real world. Next slide, please, Marie. And then finally, what this means for society. So for organizations, fewer catastrophic failures, hopefully that the systems in place will actually respond, more reliable systems, lower costs of things going wrong. If you can clearly see where the system failed, it's easier to solve it. For workers, less morale, the stress, you know who's accountable, where to get something. There is no stress in your trying to figure out everyday tasks, less burnout, more sustainable work. And then for the state, clearer regulations and expectations, better enforcement, and better national resilience. And I'm hoping my first webinar, because I haven't done one of these before, has gone down well. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. That was great. It's I'll stop sharing. It's really great to see that overview and the direction of where human factors is having an impact in work, the organization of work, and with the ILO strengthening that relationship. So it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Any questions from anybody? You can turn on your cameras and raise your hand, or you can put them in the chat. Any questions for Tony? That was great, Tony. Yeah.
Thank you. It was probably rushed at times, but it's a half an hour.
I don't see any questions in the chat.
Tony,
Chiara,
I'll break the ice because something that I'll touch upon in my presentation about our link with the Federation of European Ergonomists, which is something in common and very important. So one way of making lasting or influencing the industry landscape is definitely through the standard bodies, okay? So you mentioned the Technical Committee 159.
Yes.
And I'm a member of the subcommittee 4 of the 159 on the human factors of system interactions. And sometimes there are working groups in there to work on, for instance, we are working on a new transforming the technical report on human factors of intelligent and autonomous system in a potential new standard. But it's very difficult, like when you are a member of the committee and you represent, for instance, on behalf of the National Standard Authority, because you need to come in as part of any of the members, which is basically through the standard authorities as an expert, etc. It's voluntary work, so even if they have meetings, etc., we as a society we traditionally support this work. Leonardo Sullivan used to be in many of those committees, Sarah Dockrell as well, for others. The question is, how can me as a member of a committee, or you in the future, an individual member, represent really the point of view of the larger community of practice? Because I don't know how, for instance, is it possible to circulate draft document? Because I don't think that, I didn't have the impression that that was possible. For instance, I could circulate, when the technical reports are published, then they can be circulated for comments. But when it's a working document, it's difficult to share and collect input from. So in fact, it's a practical problem I have, that I want input, but I don't think I can circulate working documents or something like this. But I know that, for instance, we can put some topics, like, for instance, the role of AI and the empathic features of AI in relation to human interaction in Gen AI applications, which is, controversial and problematic for recent news and for what we know can happen with young adult and young people interacting with something that is mistakenly taken as a consultation with empathic capacity, and it doesn't really, So these type of things are any suggestion on how this interaction can become a little bit more capable of informing than the expert that is effectively in the committee.
Well, one of the things that came up about using practitioners more on the global stage, to actually for each society to engage with practitioners. So from one realm, because I know your background, would always get researchers to do work on it. It could be a research question, but also without divulging sensitive information, you could do a survey in a work environment of the practicalities of certain events or certain conditions, what your thoughts. So as a practitioner, to engage in surveys, that you know what's coming in the future and gauge what people want. And of course, from the research element, which I'd always hope that these committees would be based on what is actually happening and happened in the past. That would be my opinion on it.
Thank you, Tony. Thanks, Chiara. Just a quick question, Tony, that I hadn't seen that humans in command, because people keep talking about humans in the loop, and I'm saying that's not good enough. That's not good enough. So is this the term, humans in command, or
Yes.
is it? Okay,
No,
okay. Okay, brilliant. Tony, thank you. Look, if anyone else has any further questions for Tony, do put them in the chat, and we'll do another Q&A after Chiara. Chiara, is it okay? I'll go ahead and share your slides, Chiara. Okay. So Chiara has, as she mentioned, working with the European Society.
A quick question, Marie. Is it possible to potentially share my screen, or?
No, we're sticking with just myself and Diego, if that's okay. Just following our
previous, yes, unfortunate disadventures.
I know, it's terrible. But I don't mind you telling me to move it on or whatever, that's fine, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, just shared the wrong one, sorry. I'll close that actually. Here we go. Okay, Chiara, sorry. Now I'll put it. Great. Okay, Chiara, go for it. Yeah.
Hi. So I'll only steal 10 minutes of your time just to say I was in touch with the Federation of European Ergonomics Societies, that it's a body that we are a member of, and they represent the 4 different societies across Europe on human factors and ergonomics. And they had an annual general meeting, let's say, on the 7th of October, followed by a workshop or a conference in Naples this year. For personal reason, I was supposed to go there in person, but for family-related issues, I was only allowed to participate remotely, which was fine, and was facilitated by them. So I next slide, just to show you, well, I represented the society in the sense of saying to the Federation what activities we run throughout the years, what are we actively engaging on. We reported about a number of, how we meet as a committee, how we engage with our members, how we do the annual conference, what was the topic of this year, and then how we effectively interface also with society at large. So next slide, I presented to them our communication channels and the fact of having a LinkedIn profile, which is fairly active and where we advertise our Lunch and Learn, linked to the Eventbrite, and also the YouTube channel where we post the video related to the Lunch and Learn. I presented to them an overview of those events. We have a long-standing history. Now these events have been ongoing since the 2020, so it's been 6 years of running those webinars. And they suggested that we share the calendar of our events with them, so that they could be open. I say that that's in fact it's one of the listed opportunity that it could be of interest for us to gain participants from the Federation of Societies to some of our Lunch and Learn, and vice versa, for our member to get to know the events that are happening at the Federation level or from other societies, so that we can participate to those. Next. So, okay, as I said, I presented to them. This is Maria and Joan and the others were actively involved in this event. That was the society this year basically supported and participated to, like we did previously also in 2022, to European wide conferences where we had our own presence and supported and endorsed ergonomics and human factors in topical area and in other let's say community of practices. So it was seen as a very positive element, and others are doing similar stuff. So we could get this overview from them a little bit more closely. Next. So we said that we were equally engaging also with I was telling them that our colleague Tony was also signed to the International Economic Association for similar reason, to strengthen our capacity to become player in the world scene, even representing Ireland. Ireland is famously able to punch way above her weight for human factors, but also for many other matters on the academic and also on the practical, let's say, industry application scene, even in our remit, and we know this. Next. So what are the opportunities that were envisaged for us in our interaction, in strengthening our interaction with the Federation? First of all, as I said at the very first, the beginning, they said they have a communication and promotion committee, the people listed in there, and the calendar that you can see on the right-hand side is on their part of the website, and they said, please do inform us about your Lunch and Learn. We failed to do that for this January, but from now on, we could probably, provide our events and send the link to them so that they could be. And equally, they suggested that we use their calendar of event to inform our own newsletter so that our members can become better aware, let's say, of activities that are ongoing at the European level within the Federation and the member of the Federation. Next. The second opportunity that was highlighted to us was effectively the Federation is often called upon by European bodies. Like this is an event that just was published now in January 2026, where the Federation of European Ergonomics was actually invited to present at the European Agency for Safety and Health. I can give you the link to this particular event, where they basically presented, and Isabel, that might be of interest to you, they presented the role of human factors and AI in transport. It was a discussion about that, and the discussion again promoting let's say, the European program of human-centric AI, the European program of explicitly stated in the EU AI Safety Act of not only human centricity, but also human oversight, and not just human oversight, control over actions that are considered to be safety critical, and especially in this case, it was in the transport arena. So the idea was if we know in advance of those events, we can potentially contribute to it or Guia represented the federation at the event because she's the secretary of the society. We could have informed or provided some example if we wanted to, potentially the presentation that has happened there. We weren't in the loop for this particular one, but I think we make an effort to be in the event to come. Next, and the other element, opportunity 3, is about the fact that the federation is actively participating to the conference that they do every year is one aspect, the annual conference, where we could be networking, and equally we can host that conference ourselves. Like we can think about maybe not this year, but in next year, the year after, to potentially host them and let them and invite them on our turf, let's say, for the annual conference so that we can network with the rest of them. They also have been engaged in projects as an entity. And effectively, for instance, we discussed that inside the society before. They develop an entire platform called Train for Work that is actively available at the web link that is in this website, whereby they offer training regarding human factors in the workplace of the future, or human-centered work in industry 4.0/5.0. And actually, as a society, we thought about potentially gaining a favorable, let's say, membership access to the platform to avail of some of the training material that was developed by the federation and has been, let's say, it's excellent material. I was invited as a reviewer a few years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, when the initial project was piloted. And now that the project is open, we could think about accessing the platform or providing access to the training material in some form or shape, even for the educational piece of the information, effectively. Last but not least, the next slide, the last opportunity is the one that we discussed, the fact that I'm not the only one, there are others that are member of ISO and SEN technical committee, working around through either the national bodies or through the SENELEC or whatever and even within the commission, being part of potential working groups at the directorate general level, that we could become more aware of and use a liaison link through those gatekeeper effectively to influence some of the not only standardization guidelines or also effectively future European calls and element that we want to strengthen the work with. Informally, I can tell you that there was also a similar discussion to what we have in Ireland, is informing programs or reaching out to professional bodies like, I don't know, the engineering bodies, to say any industrial engineer should have background on human factors related to product design, or any medtech graduating with a degree in design of medical devices should have some preparation related to user evaluation and user-centered design for the purpose of this. And these elements came up during the meeting, and how potentially we can prepare things that could be at national level, but also scaled up at European level to propose certain standards and guidelines, also referring to education in our area of interest for our community practice. So this hope will give you just a short whistleblowing overview of the topics and the opportunities that were discussed. And the fact that, it's a work in progress, so we need to reach out to the current member of the committee, potentially, if any of us has interest in becoming an active member of the Federation of European Ergonomists. Is very much like our own society, is running on volunteering. And volunteering means you have the willingness to contribute to the meetings and their work, and shape the connection and the communication that goes with it. So yeah, I didn't put my hands up for becoming the liaison person straight after the meeting, but we can discuss with the wider community within our society. If there is an interest for someone to take on that role, I think it would be very valuable, and is definitely a necessary element for keeping that connection and that relationship alive.